Marcus Blackwood sat in his Mercedes S-Class, parked 3 blocks away from his palatial Westwood estate, staring at the ragged clothing lying on the passenger seat. At 72, he had built one of the largest real estate development companies in the country, transforming abandoned warehouses into luxury apartments and old factories into gleaming office towers. But this experiment made his weathered hands tremble in a way no multi-million-dollar deal ever had. He changed into the worn clothes. Though he hardly needed theatrical makeup to look weathered, his age already gave him that advantage. His silver hair, usually meticulously groomed, he left uncombed and matted. The reflection in his rearview mirror showed a different man entirely, one who could have been him 50 years ago when he was living in his father's maintenance shed, working as a janitor in the very buildings he would later own. The walk to his own front gate felt surreal. His knee ached from an old construction injury, a reminder of the days when he worked alongside his crews, learning the business from the ground up. He positioned himself near the ornate iron entrance, where the steady stream of joggers, dog walkers, and neighbours would pass by. The same neighbours who nodded respectfully at his Mercedes as he drove past every morning now had the opportunity to see him in a different light. The first hour was enlightening, though not surprising. A couple in matching Gucci loungewear approached, the husband wearing gold-rimmed aviators, worth more than most people's monthly rent. Honestly, the woman said badly to her husband, not bothering to lower her voice, this neighborhood has gone completely downhill. Remember when they used to keep these people out? Her husband nodded in agreement, adjusting his Rolex. Someone should call the police, he muttered, deliberately loud enough for Marcus to hear. This isn't some downtown subway station. The morning grew warmer, and a female jogger came bouncing down the sidewalk, her ponytail swinging. As she approached, Marcus shifted slightly to give her more room, her face contorted in disgust and fear. Ugh! Stop staring at me, you creep, she shouted, though he had barely glanced her way. I'm recording you on my phone, you disgusting old pervert. She held up her iPhone threateningly as she passed, then immediately pulled out her AirPods to make a call. Oh my God, Sarah, there is this gross old man outside the Wellington gates. He's probably one of those predators from the news. Someone needs to call the neighborhood watch. Every averted gaze, every quickened step, every gesture of disgust was a data point in this unofficial study of human nature. The harsh judgment in their eyes cut deeper than he'd expected, even though he knew the truth about himself. He thought about all the homeless men his age he had seen over the years, wondering how many were veterans, former businessmen, or just ordinary people caught in extraordinary circumstances. Then came Grace. She shuffled toward him with a wire shopping cart, her clothes clean but well worn, her white hair tied back in a practical bun. Instead of hurrying past, she stopped. Here, dear, she said, digging through her purse. She pulled out a $10 bill, crisp and new, probably from her monthly Social Security check. And don't you listen to those people who pass by. My Harold was homeless for a while after Vietnam before he got help. Sometimes life just deals us a hard hand, especially at our age. It's not easy starting over when you're older. Marcus tried to refuse, but she insisted. Take it. And there's a shelter on 4th Street that serves hot breakfast until 10. They're good people there. They have a special section for seniors too. He watched her continue her journey, the shopping cart squeaking slightly with each step. The $10 bill in his hand felt heavier than any contract he'd ever signed. As the afternoon approached, he saw Sophia, his housekeeper of 15 years, walking up the street with her grocery bags. He considered moving, but before he could, their eyes met. Recognition flickered across her face, followed by something that surprised him. Not shock or disappointment, but understanding. She set her bags down and sat beside him on the concrete, ignoring the curious stares from passers-by. Mr. Blackwood, she said quietly, I assume this is not what it appears to be. You recognize me? Said Mr. Blackwood. She smiled. I've worked for you for 15 years. I was there when your wife passed, when your daughter got married. These clothes can't hide someone I know so well. She pulled an apple from her grocery bag and offered it to him. But I would have done this even if you weren't my employer. And she handed him the apple. Why? Because my father taught me that wealth isn't in your wallet. It's what's in your heart. Some of the richest people I know live in the smallest houses. Some of the poorest live in mansions. They sat in silence for a moment, watching the parade of humanity pass by. Finally, Sophia stood up, gathering her bags. Will you be wanting dinner served at the usual time tonight, Mr. Blackwood? Yes, he said, then added, Thank you, Sophia. Not just for this, but for teaching me something important. That evening, after washing away his temporary homelessness in his marble shower, Marcus Blackwood made 3 calls. One to his lawyer to establish a new charitable foundation focused specifically on elderly homeless support. One to Grace's shelter on 4th Street to make a substantial anonymous donation. And one to Sophia, offering to set up a college fund for her grandchildren. But more importantly, he made a promise to himself. His future philanthropic efforts wouldn't just be about writing checks. They would be about promoting and rewarding acts of genuine compassion. He would use his influence to bridge the gap between those who had and those who needed, understanding now that the gap was less about money and more about humanity. As he sat in his home office, he placed a $10 bill from Grace in a frame. Alongside a quote he typed out, True wealth isn't measured by what we have, but by what we give when we think no one is watching. The next morning, when he drove through his gates in his Mercedes, he didn't just wave to his neighbours. He stopped to learn their names and to share stories about how he built his first apartment building from a rundown warehouse, remembering always that he was once the janitor who swept its floors.